Hello and welcome to Moment of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. This is the second of a short series about why I hate Russell Brand. Now, I'm going to assume that everyone watching this has read the Times article or watched Dispatches last night. If you haven't, there are links in the description. Severe content warning, obviously. I don't necessarily want to go over the crimes of Russell Brand. They've been covered elsewhere. What I want to do is talk about how rich, powerful men like Brand are protected by even richer, even more powerful men. Brand himself is currently whining that the same mainstream media that protected him and his crimes for over 20 years is out to get him, since he's now on social media, and despite billions more people using social media than read the Times or watch Channel 4. They're completely different things, you see, since the mainstream media is owned by sociopathic billionaires who just want to watch the world burn, and social media is owned by sociopathic billionaires who just want to watch the world burn. You see, one is a playground for incredibly rich sex offenders, serial rapists and nonces to do and say whatever they want, knowing that they will never be brought to justice because they just make too much money for their handlers. The other is the mainstream media, stroke social media, delete where applicable. Here's the thing. I first became aware of rumours about Brand's problematic behaviour towards women, the fear that he instilled in women, over a decade ago. When I was doing publicity for the Odyssey expedition in 2010, I did a series of interviews for the BBC, ITV and others. While chatting with a member of the production staff after one of these interviews, for whatever reason, Brand's name came up. Now, I've seen that level of fear in someone's eyes only a few times in my life, and this was one of them. The person was obviously deeply uncomfortable, even by the mention of his name. They had worked with him in the past. Something had happened. I don't know what, but that look spoke volumes. I quickly changed the subject. A couple of years later, at the end of my journey, I was back on the publicity circuit, getting on the BBC breakfast couch, appearing on CNN, Sky News and the like. After one of these interviews, I was having a chit-chat with the crew about good guests and nightmare guests. Brand's name came up again, very much linked to the latter category. That's when I first heard that it was an open secret in the industry that he was a serial abuser of women. I was told that everybody knew. Yet, he was still allowed back on Channel 4 or the BBC when he wanted to publicise something or just needed another paycheck. The following year, I gave a series of talks about my adventure. I'd obviously have to be rather vague about all this because I don't want to get sued by a powerful celebrity millionaire backed by billionaires and a small army of lawyers. Anyway, at one of these talks, we all went for dinner afterwards with the other speakers and the organisers of the event. One of them worked on a flagship program on one of our major broadcasters, and they had met Brand on several occasions. That person described him to me as like a young Rolf Harris. That phrase stuck in my head. So when Fern Brady tweeted that she would call her memoir My Rapey Wapey, I thought, Russell Brand. When Catherine Ryan last year said there was a sexual predator in the entertainment industry working in plain sight, but everyone was afraid to say anything, I thought, Russell Brand. Now look, I don't work for the BBC. I don't work for Channel 4. I don't work for the mainstream media. In the greater scheme of things, I'm a knobby nobody. And I knew that something was up with this guy. 3 different people who worked in the industry had given me strong indications of Russell Brand's behaviour over a decade ago, and nothing was done about it. He was still appearing on television, talking to Paxman, going on Question Time, The Last Leg. He appeared on Celebrity Bake Off in 2019. If I knew, then they knew. The producers, the bookers, the crew, the other panelists, they all knew, or at least suspected. But here's the thing. I could do nothing about it. What could I do? I could write a tweet. Could I write a tweet accusing a rich, powerful, and well-connected man of rape with no actual evidence? Nobody wanting to go on the record because of the fear he instilled in people? One-way ticket to bankruptcy. Yeah, okay. Should I have walked into a police station in Liverpool and told them that I had heard that Russell Brand, a man who I had never met, is more than likely not a serial abuser of women who makes women who work with him profoundly uncomfortable based on nothing but hearsay? I probably would have been arrested for wasting police time. But those producers, those execs at Channel 4, the BBC, Endemol, they could have done something. Something that wouldn't have had to involve the police or the potential of being sued all the way back to the Stone Age. They could have simply stopped employing him. They could have stopped having them on having him on their shows. With his addictions and his casual misogyny, they gave him ample enough opportunity to get rid. But they chose not to. Instead, they renewed his contracts. Instead, they chose to put young female members of staff working on these productions in close quarters with a man that they knew, or at least strongly suspected, was a sexual predator. If you watched the documentary last night, you'll know that the BBC and Channel 4 both claim there were no official records of complaints made against Brand at that time. Or if there were, they can't be found. I think this is absolute bullshit. But even if no official complaint was made out of fear of the accused of losing their job, being shut out the entire industry, which, by the way, is run by a tiny group of very wealthy people in this country, then those producers knew something was going on. Female runners being told to get numbers off young students in the audience acting as pimps so Brand could abuse his position of power in the most vile way imaginable. Brand is a serial abuser, not just of women, but of power. And as far as Channel 4 and the BBC are concerned, they enabled this man. He literally could not have done it without them. He was powerless without the fame and the fortune that came his way as the result of the powers that be, the now evil mainstream media that he now says is out to get him. And what did he do with all that power? He used it to abuse and degrade women. And the women he didn't abuse, the women with whom sex was consensual, he treated like a piece of meat, there for his pleasure, there to be used and discarded at his discretion. My problem isn't with Channel 4 bringing Brand's behaviour to light now. It's that it took Channel 4 so long to get to this point. This documentary could have been made 10 years ago. It should have been made 10 years ago. Or even better, there would be no need to make this documentary at all if Brand's problematic treatment of women was acted on 20 years ago, like it would have been in pretty much any other profession. Why wasn't it? My guess? His enablers, the producers, the execs, were still in their cushy jobs 10 years ago. Maybe they've now retired or moved on to other things. But if they had acted and he continued to do what he was doing, there's a good chance he would have ended up behind bars a long, long time ago. And several women would now not be living every day with the trauma that he inflicted on them. I hope charges are pressed. I hope he stands trial. I hope he goes to jail for what he did. But I don't think he will. He's too rich, he's too powerful, and backed by some of the wealthiest scumbags on the planet. Even if he wasn't, only 2% of rapes reported to the police wind up going to court in this country, and even fewer result in a conviction. I'm sorry to say that the Tories have effectively decriminalised rape over the last decade or so. But if, and it's a big if, he does go down, I don't just want him put away for a long time. I want those producers and execs at Channel 4, the BBC, and the production companies that kept employing him, I want them raked over the coals as well. The name of the Dispatches episode last night was In Plain Sight. The clue is in the name. This was no secret in the industry. But as we saw with Savile, as we see time and time again, the rich and the powerful live by their own rules. They can do whatever they like, to whoever they like, and still keep failing upwards. And Russell Brand, like Donald Trump and Boris Johnson, shows how society rewards those who commit the most horrific crimes and demonize the brave people with nothing to gain and everything to lose, who dare speak up. Join me for part 3, when I'll be talking about the absolute cult surrounding the vile sexual predator, allegedly, Russell Brand.